Eminent Australian environmental philosopher Val Plumwood explored the idea that the value of the earth was measurable beyond its value to humanity. As Plumwood's friend and colleague, Professor Deborah Bird-Rose explains,
here we are, a species that's destroying the earth, destroying the capacity of earth to be a home for life, really trying to move beyond the instrumental, human-focused logic and to uncover or build up the meaningfulness of earth in its own right, on its own terms, without it necessarily being useful or meaningful to us, was her lifelong project. If you look around, you can see that Indigenous people and other peoples in the world already get this. They don't need to be convinced that the earth is meaningful to itself on its own terms. So what is it in Western thought that makes it so hard for us to get that? Why are we having this problem? One of the dualisms that Val worked with was mind versus matter. So mind is separate from matter. Matter is deemed to be mindless, and therefore mind should rule over matter. And in the West, this led to what she called a dematerialization of the world, that Western humans were increasingly unable and unwilling to really be closely in touch with the material world. And the problem that she began to see was that if you become focused on your attachment to one place, you start to lose sight of all the other places, because no place is an island, just like no man is an island, no place is an island. And we get food or fertilizer or water or air or you name it from lots of other places, and a lot of our effluent gets washed away to lots of other places. So the downstream places, she was saying, the places that we don't want to think about, the places that we flush away, or the places that we take from and don't give back to, those are all what then she's calling the shadow places, the places that we background and don't take notice of. But we can't have these relationships to places we love without the support of the places, the shadow places that make them possible.
In terms of modern agriculture, Plumwood's argument encompasses how urban people are denied relationship to and knowledge of the terrains and communities where food and fibre, the elements which sustain, warm and nourish them, are produced. Intensifying processes of industrialised agriculture erase people, memory and culture from the land. Large-scale, mechanised, high-input, high-output farming systems are the norm. Who will remain to care for, know and honour the land that gives life to all? In a region with challenging environmental realities, farmers and their communities constantly adapt, modify, design. Design exists in three distinct realms: design of agricultural systems, design of new machinery and implements, and the design of cultural processes that enable all people to connect and respond to the scattered rural places that nourish them. In regional Australia, sophisticated design predates modern industrial farming. Indigenous Australians designed systems of tending land that bound culture and religion to local and regional ecologies. This seed-grinding stone from Wiradjuri country in the Riverina region of southern New South Wales records another design that nourished people, a technology that enabled the production of flour, the baking of bread. New efforts to design emerged as agricultural colonisation unfolded. This fence wire knot from a farm in the Unoni Harenya area shows the design and technical skills of rural workers who wove new fences from hewn timber posts, wire netting, and simple strands of wire. Adaptations to unfamiliar terrains, to unfamiliar species, adapting equipment, designs more useful for the task at hand. Fixing metal sides to tractors, funneling heat from the engine towards the driver, an improvised heater that enabled the sowing of crops during cold autumns and early winters. Garth Strong designed a log splitter made from scrap metal stored on his farm to more efficiently process firewood to heat the family home.
I've designed machinery or modify machinery where the machines you bought had some design errors or something, or didn't work practically in your situation, so you'd make modifications to make it suit.
These early examples of design and modification, driven by practical necessity, have built knowledge and methods over the years that are now available to the current generation, allowing design considerations to be made in order to address ecological concerns. At the National Land Care Awards in 2014, farmer Colin Cease won the prestigious Bob Hawke Land Care Award. The award celebrates Colin's revisioning of agriculture as an ecological activity and recognises the significance of pasture cropping, a revolutionary new method of grain and pasture production designed by Colin on Winona, his farm in the central tablelands of New South Wales. Choosing to value, retain and regenerate the indigenous grasses of Winona, the folding of primary production into a local ecology required a fresh mode of thinking about farmland. Despite widespread beliefs that farming systems that acknowledge and bolster ecological connections, ecology, limits productivity and profitability, Colin's production levels have increased dramatically. He now runs more sheep, grows more wool, and as much grain as when he used industrial quantities of chemicals and fertiliser. He enhances productivity even further by vertically stacking enterprises, such as harvesting native grasslands for seed. The regenerating ecology of Colin's farmland has boosted soil carbon levels by 200% and soil nutrients by 163%. He now has over 60 species of native grasses. More than 120 native bird species have returned, with a rising diversity of marsupials and a blossoming of insect populations. The local ecology is teeming with life and vitality.
One of the big problems that's evolved because of the change in agricultural practices and the development of industrial agriculture is, as machinery, like big tractors, have got bigger and bigger and bigger for efficiency, so-called efficiency, what's happened is that now we need less people on the land to look after the farm. A problem that has evolved from that is the decline of country towns. So that in itself is a big problem in that many people now don't really understand how food is produced, even where it comes from in many instances. I think we need to reconnect people to farms and farmers and individuals on the land. In the 1980s, when I was looking at how I was going to survive on this farm, I started to look at different forms of agriculture because I was practicing European agriculture in a land where on the opposite side of the planet from where it was developed. And European agriculture hasn't worked very well in Australia right from the beginning, in that, okay, it's grown food, but it's destroyed the whole landscape in the process. I started to look at different forms of agriculture in that I was aware of Aboriginal land management in the 1980s, and I was aware of ecological values also in the 1980s, and I was starting to design or get my head around a form of agriculture that encompassed European agriculture, Aboriginal land management and ecology.
Let's consider design as an underlying principle that allows our shadow places to thrive. User-led design creates practical and economic benefits for farmers and for all people through the continued production of food and fibre.
The people on the land who are absolutely challenging that and rethinking that and forming that design fit between the need and the way to meet that need. I mean, that's true innovation. It's the kind of thinking we really need a lot more of.
Despite the unrelenting, blind demands made upon rural places and people, at the moment of climatic disruption and ecological unravelling, some farmers are designing new agricultural systems, new implements, new modes of connection to enable people from afar to find knowledge, understanding. Such farmers and like-minded people are casting light across our shadow places, drawing our nourishing terrains from darkness, enabling the understanding and honouring of the farmlands that give us life.